In the last 20 years, over $30 billion has been invested in the emerging Palestinian state by a variety of nations, including Canada. Yet, despite of this unprecedented financial investment, little infrastructure has been built in Palestine. We met with Caley Myers of the Jerusalem Institute to try and understand what has happened with all the money invested in Palestine.
The Jerusalem Institute of Justice is an organization that I founded here in Israel about 11 years ago in order to advance freedom of religion, social justice, civil rights within Israel and also the surrounding region. We've challenged the Israeli government on over 660 cases of civil rights issues over the last 11 years. But we speak into the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and call on the international community to recognize the human rights abuses that are taking place towards Palestinians by the Palestinian Authority, Hamas, and the Arab nations surrounding Israel. The international community made a terrible mistake in 1994. In an effort to push for two states for two peoples, they recognized Yasser Arafat as the legitimate leader of the Palestinian people and helped him create an entity called the Palestinian Authority, to which they gave responsibility for the Palestinians living in many places throughout the West Bank, as well as Gaza. So he immediately disregarded their human rights. One of the first things he did was that he forcefully expropriated all the media. So he got rid of freedom of expression in the Palestinian Authority. There was much more freedom of expression before he came to power. He arrested journalists. He arrested, tortured some, executed others. He executed around 30 Palestinian journalists after coming to power in 1994. Anyone who was not willing to print PLO propaganda was severely punished. So he made a very clear statement: I will be controlling all the media that comes in and out of the Palestinian Authority. We still see this today. The other thing that he did is he came to the international community and he said, I need your money. I need your money to build a proper state. He first did this in the nonprofit sector. So before Arafat came to power, around 50% of the education in the West Bank and Gaza, 60% of the medical care, 100% of the handicap care, these all came through private NGOs supported by the international community, mostly states around the Middle East and Western societies. Arafat came to these funders and said, stop giving money to these private NGOs. Start giving money to the Palestinian Authority. I want to build hospitals. I want to build clinics. I want to build education facilities. So within the first 2 years of Arafat coming into power, over 60 medical clinics were shut down throughout the West Bank. They're simply closed. You may hear once in a while a tragic story of somebody coming in from the West Bank into Israel to be treated at an Israeli hospital and getting stuck at a checkpoint and something terrible, God forbid, happens. But nobody stops to ask the question, why isn't there proper medical care within the West Bank? Because Arafat shut that down, and what he never did was he never replaced them. So he never built proper new hospitals, new clinics, new education facilities. The money simply disappeared, and none of this was ever built.
With so much investment and very little oversight, the question on everyone's mind is, where did all the money disappear to?
The international community, from 1994 with the Oslo Accords until 2015, so we're looking at the last 21 years, has given more than $31 billion US dollars to the Palestinian Authority as humanitarian aid. So this people has received more money in donations for humanitarian needs than any other people ever on the face of the earth. I did a very simple calculation and compared it to the amount of money given from the United States to Europe under the Marshall Plan for the complete reconstruction of the European economy. So taking historic inflation rates into account, the amount of money given from the international community to the Palestinian Authority over the last 21 years is more than 15 times the amount of money given from the United States to Europe under the Marshall Plan. In simple terms, this means with all the money that we gave the Palestinians over the last 21 years, we could have reconstructed Europe's economy 21 times. But what's happened with the money? The average Palestinian in the West Bank and Gaza is living in abject poverty. And so this money has not been used properly. It's actually been stolen. It's been stolen in broad daylight by the Palestinian Authority. Yasser Arafat's own accountants, after he passed away, declared over $2.4 billion of cash sitting in his Swiss bank accounts. Where did this money come from? Well, everyone knows that he's siphoning off money into his private bank accounts. He was. And his predecessor, Mahmoud Abbas, is doing the same thing. He's now worth almost $1 billion. Khaled Mashal, head of Hamas, is worth over $2 billion. Drive through Jericho, you'll find more than 30 signs sitting in empty fields that say something like this: "We want to thank the good people of the United States of America, of Germany, Japan, and the Palestinian Building and Housing Department for this project, which will cost $70 million to build an industrial park, to build a hospital or a nursing home. Estimated start of project 2009, estimated end of project 2012. Empty field. So someone had an interesting ceremony. They put up a sign, they cut a ribbon, money disappeared. So we know what the money didn't do. Where did it go? Like I said, it first of all went into the private bank accounts of many of the Palestinian leaders. Second of all, it's used, for instance, to pay Palestinians sitting in Israeli prisons for carrying violent crimes against Israelis. So if you're a Palestinian that's carried out a relatively minor crime and you're sitting in an Israeli prison for up to 3 years, you and your family receive $400 a month from the Palestinian Authority. And then they have this kind of sliding scale that if you carried out a more heinous crime like murder or attempted murder, you and your family receive $3,400 a month from the Palestinian Authority. That's around $40,000 a year, which isn't a bad salary for single income in many Western nations. This is money that's purely being used for incitement to violence, and it's coming from the international aid. There's no question. So that's about $70 to $100 million a year that's being paid to prisoners just for trying to kill Israelis. Instead of helping to advance Palestinian human rights, we're actually strengthening radicals that are first abusing their own people and then becoming a danger to Israel. I'm not saying stop funding the Palestinians. What I am saying is start monitoring the funds that are going into the Palestinian Authority to make sure that they're actually being leveraged to advance human rights rather than being used to advance violence and racism and hatred and terrorism.
The international community needs to stop turning a blind eye to the hijacking of Palestinian society's future by the current Palestinian regime. Accountability must be demanded and given before another $30 billion disappears. For TheRebel.media, I'm Igal Hecht.